so then you kind of basically suppress the ads and you don't show them to people who convert it, because then you're wasting money. They don't do that, so like they must be spending millions of dollars on that.
Oh, well, that's fun. All right. Now that my computer's decided to show up on the screen, we can actually start. So, how do you like Express? It's great. It's better than not having Express. Yeah, okay, it's a good start. I'll take it. So, want to dive right in today. Not too much discussion about philosophy because there's a lot of code to show you and a lot of code to go through. Because what I want to take you through is the process of using CRUD with Express. CRUD being our acronym for Create, Read, Update, Delete. And that means there's a number of different tasks that we have to think about and how that's going to get represented properly in Express. I have taken the liberty of using the Express generator because the Express team puts out a generator that just allows you to get a skeleton of an Express project set up. And so it's got all of the basic stuff already set up. I'm going to take the liberty, now that we are in 2019, of changing things over to proper ES6. And one of the things that they have done that I want to show you to start off with is lines 25 and 26 here. They have taken their routes and they've split them out into a separate file. It's totally fine if you have everything in one file. Totally fine. Nobody's ever going to complain. In fact, one of the best parts about Express is that you can have your entire server and all of its business logic in one file. But if you want to modularize things and if you want to compartmentalize things, you can take your files. So if I scroll up a bit, here on line 8, we are requiring in the routes index file. So just arbitrarily made a new directory. They're free, I can have them, called routes. And inside of it, I have an index.js and a users.js. And that's where the routes are for those two specific types of URLs. And then down here on 25 and 26, this is where they get registered. So any route that starts with slash is going to go to the index. But more specifically, any route that starts with slash users is going to go to the users file. And then if we take a look at what those look like, inside here, we load up Express, and we load up the Express router. So that what we get the ability to do is register our routes with the router just as we were doing before, and then we export the router. So this is our index page because this is the index routes. So slash, anything that's localhost 3000 slash is going to be handled by this function here. And similarly, we have router.get slash, but this is the one that's mounted onto slash users. So anything that is just slash users, that's the index route for users, and this is the route that would handle that. So if we had slash users slash edit as an example, or let's say slash new, wow. There we go. So that would be slash users slash new, because anything that's in this file is automatically prepended with slash users. So this is a nice way to keep routes organized when you have a bunch of routes that are related to resources. We typically want to use that RESTful convention where we have slash nouns slash verb slash noun slash ID, or slash noun slash ID slash verb. Those are our RESTful patterns that we use. So, for example, if I was loading up a specific user, that would be slash user slash ID in this particular file. But if I go back over to my index file, I haven't typed enough today, sorry. This would just be slash FAQ, because this is on the index routes. So this is a nice way to keep routes organized, and it also helps your troubleshooting, because if you know what a route starts with, then you know which file to go into to troubleshoot your routes. So this is a really common pattern that you will see. Can you reiterate what you were looking at and for what purpose? This is a skeleton Express app that is generated by the Express generator. And this is the one we're going to be building from today, so that's why I'm showing you how it's set up. Okay. Let's swap this over. And we will trade this for a fat arrow function. Cool. So, if we're going to build a CRUD app, which we are, then I'm going to need a noun. I'm going to give Calgary the privilege of picking our noun for the day, preferably a polite one. So Calgary, talk amongst yourselves and come up with a noun that we are going to build with in a RESTful capacity. Cookie. No. Shawarma. Let's give them a moment. They clearly have strong opinions about this. Cookies, it's been decided. So we're going to make a cookies app. Cool, that's good. Since we know we're going to have a cookies app, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the, exactly, Danella. I'm going to get rid of the users routes, and instead I'm going to I'm going to give us cookies. I'm going to go ahead and give that to us so that we can use it. And I'm just going to move over routes users to routes cookies.js. There we go. So, CRUD. Let's do some planning real quick. Let's do some planning in the right window. So create, read, update, delete. So whenever you're going to start building a web app like this, one of the things that you're absolutely going to want to look at is what routes are you going to need and what verbs are they going to have. And when I say route, by the way, I mean the unique combination of verb and path. That's a route. It's not just the path, it's not just the verb. So, for example, we're going to want a get route for /cookies. That, theoretically, should list all of our cookies. That makes sense? And then if we want to look at a specific cookie, we would have a get route for cookie/ID. If we want to create a new cookie, that takes 2 routes. Why does it take 2 routes? John? Nope, does not have to go to index first. I do need a post and a get. What's each one doing? Each one has a specific role, and not necessarily in that order. Janella said redirect. She's not wrong, but not entirely right either. You are a user on a blog, and you're going to create a new blog post. You click on the link to write a post, and what happens? This is no longer what happens when. What page are you taken to when you click on write a new post? Do you just magically get a new post in front of you? Yes, we have the form we have to fill out. So anytime we're going to create a resource, we need to have a form, like there's going to be a GET request. That GET request is going to be a form page where we can put in the information for what the new resource is. In this case, a new cookie. So we need get cookies / I don't know, let's call it new. And then we're going to need a post to /cookies because we're creating a new cookie. So then what if I want to update a cookie? Yeah, I will be doing another request to send the data, but I also first need a form in which I can see the current cookie data and change it. So I need get /cookies /ID /edit and then post or put patch cookies ID. So you'll notice that we have routes that have the same path but different verbs. That is okay. And then, so this gives us create. This gives us read. This also gives us read. This gives us update. So what are we missing? Delete. So, We need a route for deleting. So there's going to be some verb /cookies /id /delete. What verb should we use for this? Most likely in this case, we would probably use just a get route. It could be, I mean, the proper version would be an HTTP delete. But out of the box, Express is going to give us get and post. So we're going to use a get route for this. Now we have our routes planned out. That's 7 routes that we're going to have to build in order to have a basic CRUD app. So let's start making this happen. Oh, hush. Turn you off. So it looks like since all of these start with /cookies, most of the work is going to be done in that one routes file. So it's going to be done in here. And it's almost like I knew these were going to be some of the routes that we were going to use, so I helpfully pre-built the routes there for them. But before we go any further, we're missing something critical. So let's think about TinyApp for just a moment. Let's say hypothetically you were building an app that's a URL shortener. I know, crazy. What is an object that you have up at the top of that file that's kind of critical to being able to shorten URLs? New. Already got that. Nope, not require HTTP, and if you did that in your Express app, shame on you. Raymond wins. Raymond wins a whole stack of cookies. The URL database, without data, you have no app. Where am I going to store these cookies that I'm going to make? Where am I going to, be able to fetch them from, to be able to read them? If I don't have a URL database, I don't have an app, or in this case, a cookie database. So, I'm going to make myself a cookie DB. And it's going to be an object. I could do an array. Actually, let's make this a little bit more challenging. Let's do an array. So I have a cookie DB that is an array. So that's where I'm going to store cookies. And I'm going to seed it with one cookie. And we're going to oh yeah. If you are not starving or diabetic by the end of this lecture, you weren't paying attention. So I'm going to seed it with one cookie to start with. So that way we can start looking at whether we are fetching data correctly. So if we can look at all cookies and see a cookie in our list, and if we can look at the first cookie and see that cookie's data, then we're good. So, just for the record, a lot of times when we're talking about CRUD, instead we will say bread, which is how I like to look at it. So this one here, it's just the index route. That's the B. That is the R. This is A. This one is E. And this one is the delete route. And let's just so browse is all of your resources. Read is a single resource, Edit is a single resource, add is a single resource, delete is a single resource. But this more accurately represents how we interact with the data. I want to see all users. I want to click on a specific user. I want to edit that user. I want to make a new user. I want to delete a user. So instead of a CRUD app, it's a bread app, and I can't figure out an acronym. CRUD and bread have been around forever, and if I try and make one for cookie, we're going to be here all day. So we're making a cookie app, but it's a bread app. So we have our index route already set up. Router.get/. I will go ahead and turn this into a fat arrow. And right now it just has res.send respond with a resource, because that's what a web app is designed to do, is we are requesting resources. HTTP is a resource-based protocol. We talked about this on Monday. You don't request web pages. You don't request images. You request resources. So we want to be able to respond with a resource, but we know that this is a GET route, so we're going to show something. So we're going to serve up the index view, and I'm going to pass a local variable that is my cookie DB. I'm going to name it cookies inside the view. Cool? Cool. So that means we now need an index route. So in my views folder, here's my index route, or my index view. It's already got the basic scaffolding. So I have cookies for each cookie. So for each cookie, I want to show a listing there. Now, what a lot of people will do is they will construct some big ugly set of HTML to show things in, trying to get stuff aligned. For this, I'm actually going to do something super simple. I'm going to make a table, because I'm going to show data in a tabular format. So the name of the cookie, and does it have an image? Those are our two columns. Actually, we're going to have third column. We're not going to put any text in there, but that will be where we put buttons for being able to edit or delete that particular cookie. That sounds like a good idea. So, for each cookie, I'm going to make a new row in my table. And then I'm going to have the name of the cookie. And here, I'm going to do a little bit of logic. And I'm going to cheat. There's these cool things called HTML entities, which allow us to have all kinds of fun. There we go. So ampersand check semicolon. So if we have that, we'll show a check mark. Otherwise, we're going to show the X here. And that's cross. And then our third one is going to be a link to edit that cookie. So I know it's cookies, and then the ID, and then edit. All links should have a title attribute because that improves accessibility and Google SEO indexes the title as the keywords. Edit cookie. And I'll put a little separator there. And delete. Delete cookie. And there we go. There's my table row for each cookie. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to close this file. And I'm going to type in PM start. It says it's running. That's a good sign. Womp womp. Cookies is not defined. I beg to defer. But I passed it just as cookies.
I think you didn't have the proper EJS. There was a dash or something, right?
Yeah, but that one was so that this would get evaluated as HTML. Like it would just go in literally. The cookies up here, that's just logic. So, like this one I don't want any output. I don't want it to output cookies.forEach because forEach returns undefined. So that one's just logic. This is actual, like these two are actually output. So let's take a look. There it is, cookies. Unless have to do which? I just res.render will look at the EJS template. Images require the alt value declared. I believe title is optional. You are correct, but these were links, not images. It is in views. It's right there. I have a suspicion. I have a strong suspicion. Oh, in fact, I know exactly what's going on. This is the I've only had half a cup of coffee mistake. EJS automatically opens objects. Nope, you guys are so overthinking this. What URL am I at? Right, am I at localhost 3000/cookies? Total different problem. Title's not defined, and that's totally valid. Because I forgot to change this up here. Ta-da! So we have a chocolate chip cookie. It has an image, and I have the ability to edit or delete it. Let's improve our look just a bit. Please pay no attention to CSS. We will deal with it next week. There, that's a little bit better, but not really. Nope. That's just generic text styling. I'm just deciding to make a class. Close enough. That at least looks a little bit better. So now we're able to browse. So now what we want to look at is I can see a cookie. I can see that it has an image. I technically need one more link here. What do I need to be able to do with this cookie? View it. Yeah. So let's add that in. Wow. Yes. Title equals view cookie. View. So when I'm editing my EJS files, I don't have to restart my server. If I change any of my JavaScript logic in the routes or in the app.js, then I have to restart my server. So now view, edit, and delete are my options there. And I can tell that I am not getting my IDs in my URLs. If I inspect this, we can see that what's actually happening is it's putting the logic right in here. So let's fix that. Because I'm forgetting to wrap this in EJS. There we go. That should be working better. So now if I mouse over them, I get cookies 1 edit, and cookies 1 delete. That's what I wanted. And we can quickly inspect these just to see it a little bit bigger. That's what we wanted. Cookie/cookie ID, cookie/cookie ID edit, and cookie/cookie ID delete. That's what we wanted to have there. So now if I click on this, I'm going to get the standard express error of you don't have that route. Well, actually, it's that route technically exists. It's just it's not sending anything back. So this is going to hang forever until Chrome gives up and tells me that I didn't get a response. So I will just go ahead and kill this, and Chrome will tell me the page isn't working. That's fine. So that's this one right here. So this was browse. This one is read. So we need to be able to find a cookie, an individual cookie out of our cookie DB. So if you have an array of things, how do you find something in that array? Not everything. If you have an array of things, how do you find something in that array? .find. There's a method for that. In fact, we looked at it, oh gosh, last Thursday. I know, that was like 400 years ago. I get it. So cookiedb.find cookie, and so I want the cookie ID to be equal to rec.params.id. So because there's this colon ID syntax in my route, in my path, and because Express is the helpful little router engine that it is, it's going to automatically build an object for me in my request object called params. And so whatever the name was that I gave it up here in the URL, that's going to be the key in the request object. So rec.params.id is whatever this was up here. And let's go ahead and just for cleanliness' sake, we'll label that one as add. We're going to get there later because we need to do edit first. But I just want to see what I'm going to get. I want to make sure that param works. Restart the server. And I will refresh this. And I get nothing. Well, that's weird. Let's console.log this as well so we can see what's on the command line. So I'll refresh, I'll get nothing, and I get undefined. But the one is in the URL. There's a very specific problem that is keeping this from working. Aha, why would that be a problem? Nope, triple equals doesn't assign. Bingo, X gets a cookie, which works in this case. X gets a cookie because we're not getting a cookie. The answer here is the triple equals here on line 14. The path is a string. So when that part of the path gets pulled out and stored in rec.params, it is a string. The ID of the cookie, if we look up on line 4, is a number. So the deep equals here actually ends up not being the way we want it to be. So what most people would do at this point is they would turn this into a double equals and their problem solved. That is not the right way to handle this. What you want to do instead is this. You want to make sure that that's a number. You want to do the type coercion on that ahead of time and then use triple equals. Here's why you want to do that. What if somebody passed in something other than a number for /ID? Like maybe a system command, or maybe, you know, when we get to databases in a few days, a few weeks, you know, they were starting to put in database commands or things like that. This way, if I get a string passed in there that doesn't coerce to a number, what does that return? Not a number. So I'm safe in that regard. So this is the better way to solve this problem. Now let's test this. That looks like a cookie. And that looks like a cookie. So now we know we're getting valid data. So let's build some logic in. We want to render just the individual cookie view, which we'll have to build. And now I can just do that. This is a cool little ES6 trick. If I have a variable that is the same name as a key that I want to pass in an object, all I have to do is that. That's the equivalent of typing cookie : cookie. But it's, keeps me from doing the JavaScript equivalent of Bond, James Bond. So I can just type cookie, and then I automatically get an object where the key is named cookie, and the value is whatever was stored in that variable. Don't worry, Aaron, he's over here learning about Express. So, in the interests of doing kind of error-driven development here, I'm going to start my server up. And I'm going to refresh this. And it's going to tell me that I don't have a view for this. And that's okay, because that means that it's trying to load the right view. Failed to look up view cookie in the views directory. Awesome, it's trying to look up the right view. So let's fix that. So I'm going to make a view/cookie.ejs. And I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to read in I'll output the cookie.name up at the top as the h1. And then cookie.image. And for the alt, I will do cookie.name. And then down here, I'm going to have links to cookies plus cookie.id, edit, you guys were supposed to catch that. So now I have links to edit and delete my cookie down below here. And I'm going to put those in their own div just so I can guarantee they're they're down below the image. So that now gives me a view for this cookie. And I need one more link, actually. If I'm on an individual cookie page, what do I need a link to go to? The main index page. So there we go. That gives me a link back to my home page for my cookies. Chocolate chip. There's a nice big fat image. Home, edit, and delete. And I'm going to go home. I'm going to go view. I'm going to go home. Now I'm starting to have a real app. Have I lost anybody yet? Entirely. Partially is okay. But have I lost anybody entirely yet? How about Calgary? They're discussing if they're lost. So I'm going to go on the no news is good news plan for Calgary here, and we're going to go ahead and take a break. Come back in 10 minutes. Okay, so back at it. So when last we left, we had the ability to see our cookie and be able to not only see it in the browse view, but see it in the index view, and we could, that gave us the confidence that we could view an individual cookie. So now we need to be able to do a couple other things. Right now, we don't have the ability to add a cookie. So let's make that. In fact, we haven't even given ourselves a link to add a cookie. So let's do that. So what we're going to do there is we're actually going to take this spot here. Cookies, new. Add a cookie. Add. That's not where I wanted it. Let's not do that. Let's put it here. It's not the prettiest, but it'll work. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So we need this route to work. So let's go and look at our routes. So that's this one right here. So in order for this route to work, we need to render a view that is going to be our form for editing a cookie. And there's no objects that need to be passed to that. There's no data that needs to go to that because we don't have a cookie. So there's nothing to pass. We just need that route. Views, new cookie.ejs. I know you love watching me type. And now we get to make a form. So we know this form is going to have the method of post because that's how you create a new resource. And what's my action going to be without me loading up the Sublime? Where am I going to post this to in a RESTful way if I'm making a new cookie? /cookies, yes. So we know that for a cookie we need two things. We need the name of the cookie and we need a picture of the cookie. So that is a label. And an input box. And then we need a submit button. Okay, so I'm going to change one thing here. I can use the input type URL because I'm going to put in the URL, bless you, for the image So therefore, I'm going to use the type URL so that Chrome, as a browser, as a web client, will actually validate that that's a valid URL. Oh, thank you. Yay, my spell check worked. I totally just glossed over that. Thank you for catching that closing tag. Danila caught the same thing, so both of you get a cookie. And so now I have a form. Now that I have a form, then if I click on Add Cookie, cannot read property name of undefined, because it's trying, that's interesting, it's going to cookie.ejs. Huh. It's almost like I expected that to happen. It's going to cookie.ejs and saying it can't read the property name of undefined. Well, that's weird. Here's my new route right here. Nope, template's right there. The new cookie. Yes. Cookies all the way across the room. Frisbee cookies. Here's the problem. The reason it's trying to render the cookie view is because it thinks that :id is new. So, what I have to do here is take this route and move it up above, because it is a first come, first serve matching. So now that I have done that, restart my server, refresh, and now I have a new cookie form. It's ugly, but it works. So let's go for ginger snap, because yum. Oh, that one's gluten-free. No, we can't do that. That's just wrong. Here we go. There's a ginger snap. Now the problem is I don't have a place for this to post to. And not found, 404. So that route doesn't exist. And this isn't a problem with my server, this is a problem with the client. The client tried to send the form somewhere to a resource that doesn't exist. There's no post route for cookies. So let's make one. Router.post cookies. Rec and res. So when I am posting data from a form into Express, because I have the body parser in there, where do I find my form data? Pick one. You can't have both body and params. When I'm posting data into Express, because I'm using body parser, where do I find that form data? It would be in the body, and where do I find the body? In the request object, rec.body. So, here we get to do some more cool, Danila got it, is not in the buffer, Raymond. You've gone too far. Yes, it is getting buffered in, but Express is going to take care of reassembling that for me. I love this little bit of ES6. It's called destructuring. And so what I have done there is I have said I am expecting two keys in the object rec.body to be named name and image. And I would like to turn those into local variables. So this creates two local variables for me, name and image, and they contain the contents of rec.body.name and rec.body.image. So I'm able to do in one line what it would normally take me 2 lines of code to do, because this is the same as const name equals rec.body.name, const image equals rec.body.image. So it's called destructuring. And it saves me typing. And now that I have that, I can create a new cookie in my CookieDB. But there's a third piece of information I need now to create my cookie. What's my third piece? I'll give you a hint. It starts with an I and rhymes with D. Anyone? ID, thank you. Yes, so I need to create an ID. How do I create a new ID? I don't want to generate a random one. I kind of want to keep them sequential if possible. Yes. So what I want to do here is I want to find the max ID and then add 1. You get 2 cookies for that one. So that brings up a new question. How do I find the max ID? Dot length. I could do that. That's not necessarily the same as the max ID, but it's not terrible actually. So new ID equals CookieDB.length plus 1. And so now what I'm going to do, new cookie equals ID, new ID. Actually, since we're playing with new ES6 stuff, I'm just going to name that ID. So I can do that. I have a variable called ID, I have a variable called name, I have a variable called image. This gives me an object with keys ID, name, and image, where are the corresponding values. Nice and easy. And then CookieDB.push, new cookie. So that's going to update my CookieDB. Now what do I want to do? Do I need to res.render? All those in favor of res.rendering? All those in favor of doing something else? Couple hands. All those who have no clue or are afraid to raise your hand, either one. Room goes wild. Danilo wins. Redirect is what I want to do. This is a standard pattern in the world of HTTP. It is not specific to Express. It is not specific to JavaScript. This is how web apps in general, this is the pattern we have come to expect. When you post, the server is going to take action with the information that you have sent to it, and then it is going to redirect you somewhere that you can see the results of your action. For example, when you log into Facebook, it redirects you to your homepage. When you log into QuickBooks, it redirects you to your dashboard. When you log into, I don't know, pick something, anywhere, it tends to redirect you to a new place. If I'm on WordPress and I submit a new post, it takes me to that post. So this is a really common pattern, res.redirect, and we have 2 very good options for where we can send our users, where we can send the client to see the results of their action. What are those 2 options? Yeah, the whole list or the individual cookie itself. And this one, potato, potato. Some people will argue passionately for one or for the other. They're both right, they're both wrong. Which one do we want to do today? The whole list, okay? Cookies. Done. With this redirect, what's going to happen? What is Express actually going to send back to the client? It's not going to send a GET request. The client is going to send a GET request back to the server. Why is the client going to send a GET request back to the server? What is special about the res.redirect method that it's going to send to the client that it knows to do a GET request? Status code. This is the single thing that the browser is looking for. Without the status code, it takes no action on anything. When we request res.get or app.get cookies, and we load the index page, and we do a res.render to send something back, we send back a 200 status code. If it wasn't for that 200 status code, the browser would never look at the HTML that we're sending back. When we do res.send, we're sending back a 200 error or 200 status code, and if it wasn't for that 200, it would never look at the text we're sending back. In this case, res.redirect is sending back either a 301 or a 302 status code that tells the browser that it needs to perform a new GET request to find the resource that it's looking for. So we posted, and then we redirect the user. Without that status code, the browser does nothing. It's not about the content we send back. The browser actually doesn't care about that. If you've ever seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and you remember Marvin the Robot, or if you've read the book, which is far better, and he basically has that dejected, fine, I'll do it kind of attitude. That's the browser when it gets the status code of 200. Fine, I'll render the HTML. Seriously, without that status code, it does nothing. You need to know that that's there.
Would some browsers say if you're being redirected too many times?
So the redirected too many times error can come up if the new GET request that it does also redirects it somewhere else, and then potentially that one redirects it. I think the browser is tolerant up to about 3 redirects, and then it comes to a point where it's just like, really? And gives up. Yeah. If you've ever been looking for something in your family's house and your mom tells you it's in one place, your dad tells you it's in another place, and your sister tells you it's in another place, and finally you find it sitting next to the front door or something like that, you have that really kind of moment. That's the too many redirects. So when we do res.redirect to cookies, we're going to get sent here. Because the browser will perform a new GET request. So let's make cookies. Did I get there before the... Oh, nope, it did. Post cookies /404. Oh, that's because I'm an idiot. Would anyone like the opportunity to see why I'm an idiot? I'll give you a hint. The answer is on line 17. Calgary's been on a roll. Let's see if they get it first. It's a race. It's not about redirecting to the same page. Literally, the error I'm getting is 404, that the route doesn't exist. Like I said, the problem is 100% on line 17. No, Danila, it's not the GET route. We do have the GET route already, but that's not the issue here. The form is... crickets, nice. The form is posting to /cookies, but... because of the way that we broke the routes out, what's the actual URL here? I'll give you a hint. It's /cookies/cookies. That's post to /cookies. Ta-da! That worked. So let's view our cookie. That's a ginger snap. Go back home. Make sure we can still view the first cookie. We can. It's a chocolate chip cookie. Looks yummy. Go back home. Add cookie still sends us where we expect to go. So, now we want to be able to edit a cookie. So when I click on edit here, 404 not found, because I'm going to cookie/id/edit. So let's make a route. Router.get :id:edit. So if we're going to edit a specific cookie, what do we need to do first? Find the cookie. This sounds like a problem I have already solved. Where did I put that code? Oh yeah, it's here. So that finds my cookie for me. And exactly the same challenge. I have to make sure that params is cast to a number here. And then I want to edit the cookie, and I'm going to pass the cookie through to my form, to my view. And while I'm here, I know that I'm going to have a post to /id, because that's the right RESTful route for sending data in to edit this cookie. I already know how to grab name and image from the body. I still need to find my cookie, because I have to find that record to edit it. Except this time, I want to use the variant of find that is just find index, because I need to edit that cookie in place. I don't need to pull that cookie out and then put it back in, because then I just have to find the index all over again. So I'm going to just find the index of that cookie. And then cookie db index equals id cookie db index.id name and image. So I'll just, yep. You are correct. It's so helpful when you guys get on board with being my spell check. Like, it makes my life so much easier and makes me look like so much less of an idiot when stuff actually, works. So yeah, typos aside, I'm going to grab the ID out of there, and basically I'm just going to replace that object in my cookie DB with the new name and the new image that got passed in. And now that I've done that, I've posted. So what do I want to do now? Redirect. Sarah wins. And because I'm editing a specific cookie, plus cookie db index.id. And I could probably make that a variable, which would make it a whole lot easier to use. But fine, you talked me into it. There. That looks nicer. Stop yelling at me, guys. Jeez. So we're going to redirect back to the individual page for the cookies, which will take us up to this route up here, which will then find that cookie in the database and show it. So let's edit a cookie. Field to look up view, edit cookie. Oh, right. Helps if I make the... yeah. So I'm going to cheat and take my form and just turn it into edit cookie, because all I have to do to make this is add value. Cookie.name. Cookie.image. And this is going to post, but it's going to post to cookies. There we go. So that's going to post to that cookie to make its changes. So that kept me from having to retype that form all over again. I hate typing forms. But it's still the same fields. It's just name and name and image. Do. Cannot read property ID of undefined. It's not finding my cookie. Oh, right. Of course it's not going to find my cookie. Because... oh, no, I passed it. Let's make sure we're getting a cookie. It's undefined. That's interesting. That's really interesting, actually. The name is not ID. I use the ID attribute.
There's attribute of name.
Yes. There's also one called ID.
Yeah, they're both there.
Yes, that's deliberate. On the input, I have ID equals name and name equals name. Yeah.
You need to set the value to be the name.
Yes, because the ID and the name of the input have nothing to do with what shows in the input box. The ID is the attribute which says this is a unique element on the page, and the ID is also what connects to the for attribute on the label, so that I can click on that label and it will give focus to that particular input box. The name is what determines what the param is going to be when it gets submitted to the server. That's what fills out the HTTP response body or request body. Value placeholder is the placeholder. Value is what actually shows in the box. Like that's actually setting the value of the input box. Placeholder is what shows if there is no value. Yeah. Does that help? Cool. Oh, the for attribute on the label connects that label to a specific input control. And the for, whatever you put in here, it does not look for the name attribute, it looks for the ID attribute. And so what that allows me to do is I can now, as a user, I can click on the label and it will put the focus into that input box. And for the screen reader, it knows that that label is connected to the particular input box in question. Because unless there is a placeholder here on my input, which I did also add, a screen reader would have no idea what that label was connected to. It would just know that there's a label sitting there called name, and somewhere else there's a box where you type that in, but the screen reader wouldn't know where that is. Little things like that you can add into your code that automatically make it more accessible keep you from alienating about 13% of your users. You know, and you wouldn't give up 13% of your lunch or 13% of your paycheck, so why give up 13% of your users? But back to the challenge at hand, why is it not finding my cookie?
I think you had an extra bracket on line 9, but I don't think that's
Line 9. No, I don't. Good eye though. So this one closes off my EJS tag. This one closes off my form tag. Good eye. You get a cookie for that. Well, that's a good question, actually, because it works here. Let's see if the server's running. Yes, server is running. So if I go here, I can view it. Oh, no, I can't. Now it is actually... Oh, haha. I'm a moron. I restarted my server. Cookie number 2 went away. Let's edit the cookie. Oh, look, it works. Yeah, that's persistence. We'll get into that next week. So here's my cookie. Here's my chocolate chip. I'm just going to edit the name because I don't feel like looking up another thing. So if I click on Edit Cookie, it redirects me to the page where I see that my name has been edited. I can see my image. I go back home, and I can see that my name is still edited there. If I decide that that's not how I want to represent my cookie, I can edit it again. I can take that out, and I can edit cookie, and we go back to that. So that's my editing flow. The one thing that was specifically different here that I had to do, and that I want to call out again, is when that data came in, I edited my database in place, my array of objects. I found that one object in the array and edited it there. Because if I take that object out, like if I use just the regular .find again, and I update that object, that's a new object. That's not the one in my CookieDB. I would just update that object, and JavaScript would be like, hey, cool, you did that. And then when I go back to look at my changes, nothing would have changed. So that's why I found the index of where that cookie was in my database and edited it in the array. Because if I changed the object and then wanted to put that object back into the array to replace, I'd have to find the index anyway. So why not just find the index, edit it there? It just means that I have slightly deeper, syntax that I have to do, referencing it by index. But that shouldn't intimidate me as a JavaScript dev because it's just an array. So that's the one extra bit that I had to do here. So this means now we have browse. This means we have read. This means we have edit, and we have add. Now we are just missing delete. So let's talk about that. So we've had two different methods here for finding these objects. Once again, I'm interested in the data in the DB. I don't care about the actual cookie itself. What I care about is the data in the database. So this is a case where I want to use my index again. Because with my index, what can I then do with my array? I'll give you a hint. It starts with S. Not sort. Slice. What does slice do? Somebody other than Rachel. Kind of, sort of. You're close, but not quite. Somebody else? Somebody from this side of the room? You guys have been mostly quiet, except for John. Be like John. Even if you're wrong, at least he's shooting stuff out there. Slice, anyone? I love when I call out a particular table or section and I get the eyes that are like, you guys are great. Love you. Calgary, how about you guys? What does slice do before I bring up the docs? Allows us to remove, grab a key value pair. Pretty darn close. Tim's version. Oh, they both stopped. Darn. Slices off at a specific index. Yes. Danella gets the biggest cookie. So slice method returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object, selected from begin to end. The original array will not be modified. So slice allows us to... Oh, actually, I'm wrong. It's not slice. It's close. Splice. I thought you said slice. Splice, yes. Splice changes the contents of an array by removing or replacing existing elements and or adding new elements. Slice sounded so good and it rhymed, so I went with it. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to take an array, and the first example they give us there, that would insert. This replaces, and then I can also months splice, let's say 3, and then console.log months, and that cuts off the one at index 3. So that literally just peels that one right out. What we're going to do now that we have the index is that modifies the cookie DB, removes that one index, and now what do we want to do? We want to redirect. We can't redirect to the cookie we just deleted because we just deleted it, so we want to redirect to the whole list, because that shows the effect of the action that you just took. So here's what we'll do. We're going to add a cookie. So there's our Ginger Snap cookie. We're going to view that cookie. Cool. And now we're going to delete that cookie. And it's gone. Well, that worked. So we can edit this cookie. Yay. We can go home. And we could theoretically delete this cookie entirely. Now we have no cookies. We can add a new cookie. Thumbprint cookies, which are frickin' delicious. So now we have a cookie. We can view the cookie. We can edit the cookie. We can delete the cookie. We have our bread fully from end to end now that we are able to do with this. Now, the thing that made this easy was that we figured out first what it was we actually needed to do. Without this, we wouldn't have had as easy of a time of it, and our URLs probably wouldn't have been as consistent. So this definitely helped us out, planning these routes out, and especially knowing the verbs and the paths that we were going to use. Doesn't splice remove all values after the index, not just the index value? No. as exampled here. So this one, this inserted a new one. So we had a bigger one. So we had Jan, Feb, March, April, June. Jan, Feb, March, April, May. Oh. Oh yeah. Raymond wins. Or sorry, Darren wins. Yeah. So let's change our code. Because, oops. Let's only delete one. So that was a bug. So this way it actually deletes one. There's chocolate chip. We'll make thumbprints again. And we're going to add ginger snaps back in. And then we will delete thumbprints. Oh, and it's still doing it. I thought I did. I had to because I had to get my chocolate chip cookie back. So I added the delete count. So that should have just deleted one. Because that now does what we would expect it to do. If I change that just to, yep. So that does what we would expect it to do now. So that's the index. That's the delete count. Oh, it probably helps if I save the file. Crazy thought, I know. And let's try again. There we go. Saving the file is a really awesome thing. I recommend it to everyone. And now if I delete chocolate chips, we just have ginger snaps, and I can delete ginger snaps and they're gone. Cool. Okay, now we have a bread app with few bugs. The only bug that actually exists in our app right now is this one. So if I go to the root route, it does that. So we're going to fix that. There we go. So see cookies, and there we go. Now we have a real app with no bugs. And let's improve things 10% all across the board. Okay. So it's being really dumb. That's fine. I can make it stop being dumb. Yeah, whatever. That would just make it a all-in-one screen instead of having to scroll to see Cookie Monster, but yeah. And theoretically, yeah, it fixes that one now. So, cool. Questions? Oh, it's because I forgot to load the style sheet on the index on the home page. No wonder. You're supposed to tell me that. There we go. Cool. Works. Cookie Monster can't be contained. Make it responsive. Actually, it's going to be pretty responsive as it is. That's not the worst. And if we edit the cookie, well, that's just a form, so that's responsive. Yeah, that works. Oh, Cookie Monster. Well, he's totally responsive now. Well, sort of. He's close. If your if your mobile screen is smaller than 500 pixels wide, you need to get a new phone. Yep.
Is there a way for you to make sure you get like a 200 status code back from the URL that they're trying to post to the site?
So is there a way to make sure that there's a 200 status code back from the URL that they're trying to post to the site? Here's the thing. If I send back a 200, it won't redirect. Yeah. If I send back a 200 code, the browser won't go anywhere else. It won't redo the GET request to see the effect of whatever it was I posted. So I don't want to do that. Well, the thing that I would do here is I would write logic into my app that checked to make sure that whatever I did worked. So if I was, let's say I had an actual database behind this, I would say like, if my record did save, redirect, otherwise send them back to the form and give them a message like you typed the wrong thing. Please stop typing with boxing gloves.
I mean, like if you're posting the image.
Yep.
Like make sure that the image.
So making sure that the image is valid,
Yeah.
that's a whole other problem. I could theoretically use something like request and make a request for that image, like when I post it, make a request for that image, see if I actually got a valid thing back, and check what the status code was on the response object from request. And then if that was a 200, then I could send store it in my cookie DB, but I'd have to do that inside of request's callback.
And the server could do that without like breaking.
Server could do that with no problem whatsoever. Yeah. So quirky fact, cookie me. Good to know. Thanks, Danella, I think. Thanks for keeping that PG-13 too. I need to learn more Hungarian. If you aren't watching the Calgary channel, it's educational. I mean, it's Cookie, so Sesame Street, so we're learning things this morning. Clearly this app was brought to you by the letter D. Okay. Any questions about how we got to here?
Can you go to your router?
The one for the cookies?
I was wondering why the post router, like you have to go to the root.
Yes. The reason for that, I think you might have missed this because you were late, is because in app.js, I'm loading these routes in here. I require my routes file because they're down at the bottom. It's module.export of the router itself. And then Here I do app.use cookies and my cookie routes. So anything that starts with /cookies automatically goes to this file on the right. That's why. That's why I got bit by naming this /cookies before, because that was /cookies/cookies.
So in that file, the root is /cookie.
Correct. Yeah. Whereas I have another one that's index, and the root route in that one is literally just /, and that's where we load Cookie Monster. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
For the new ID generator,
Yes.
I think we delete from the array. I think we might have duplicating IDs.
We would end up duplicating IDs with this method, yes. So right here with our new ID generator, so the interesting part is .find is going to find the first one there. If we wanted to make this more robust, we would actually search out basically what Tyler had said before, which is to search out the max ID and then add 1 to that. And so, that would be us writing a helper method for ourselves. And so we could do something up here like function, new ID. And there's a couple different ways we could do this. We could actually make a copy of the cookie DB array and sort it by the ID, and then take whatever the last index of the array was and look at its ID and add 1 to it. That would be one way to do it. We could also do math.max and then have it look at the ID properties. So if we were to do something like cookie db.map cookie ID. So that would give me an array back of all of the cookie IDs. And then, if I wanted to really, I could sort here and do cookie db.length -1 because it's going to be the same length in both cases, and then add 1 to it. So I could do all of that in one line if I really wanted to be a jerk about it. And then I wouldn't even need the variable. I would just do that. So the map gives me back an array of all the IDs. I sort that array so that it goes into ascending order by default. Then what I'm going to do, because sort returns a new array to me, I'm going to use array syntax, and I'm going to grab whatever the last element of that array is, because I know that this array is the same length as my cookie DB array. And then whatever number comes back from pulling that out, I'm going to add 1 to it, because I know that that one will be the maximum ID. And so now I have a new max ID. And then with this new ID function, instead of this, I would do that. So that way I never end up duplicating IDs. I also end up never replacing IDs. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4 and I delete 3, 3's gone forever. And the next one would be 5. So good catch on that. Because like when I had just 2, when I had 3 cookies, 1, 2, and 3, if I delete number 2, I end up with 1, 3, and 3. That in that sense. So, this is a better way to do it. The other fun one would be to use math.max, and I'll just bring that up rather than typing it out. I'd have to use math.max and apply in order to apply that function to the array, but that wouldn't necessarily, they just spread it in this way, so that works. So I'd still do the same map, but I do it inside of math.max, and then that would give me the maximum one, and I'd add 1 to that result.
Could you do that with an object too, like object ID?
New. because that's going to try and spread just that one field from that object. It doesn't go through, because if I do dot 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 object dot ID, I'm just fetching one property there. Yeah. So I have to go through, I have to map through my array, grab all of the IDs, and then math.max that. And then grab the last one. Well, actually, this would, math.max would return the biggest number for me, and then I just add one to that. So. Cool. Questions? Awesome. I will send out a whole bunch of code. Thanks.